Good morning, Promax Africa family. Welcome to this morning's session. Thank you for joining us. Super excited for our upcoming guests, which I'll tell you all about just now. A couple of things to remind you in the meantime. We're wrapping up the end of Promax 2020, heading all the way to the awards next week. So just a reminder that on Monday, we've got our second last session with Lee Hunt's Best Practices, hosted by Viacom CBS, and that's at Monday at 4 o'clock. So please make sure you register. And then our last session of the year, World Gold 2020, which will be on Wednesday, the 2nd of November at 10 a.m. in the morning. So please remember to register and let's bring this home. Then, of course, the moment we all have been waiting for the last couple of months, the actual awards. A reminder to go to Promax Africa Facebook page and like the page. The awards will be live streamed on the Facebook page at 4 o'clock on Thursday, the 5th of November. So make sure that you're liking the page and you tune in, get your friends together, get your family together, get a glass of wine and enjoy the show. It's the first time that your friends, family, loved ones can kind of see what we do, celebrate you and be in that room. So make sure that you get everyone together and watch the show. But on to today's session, I'd like to introduce, she's already on the screen, Meriem Adib. She's a commercial director, creative director, and writer, and a big advocate of just letting it all go and be yourself, which I'm hoping to learn from today. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Meriem. Welcome.
Hi, Samira. Thank you so much. What a great intro. I loved it. Loved every minute. So I'm going to share this presentation with you all, and I'm really happy to be here. I have worked in South Africa a couple of times, and I was actually born in Africa, North Africa, and it's a real pleasure to be here. So thank you for joining me and the team, and here we go. I'm going to just share my screen, and you will get to see, excuse me, the presentation. As you can tell, I've just been going through it, and it's a subject very close to my heart about how to express yourself in a very commercial world. And what I've called it is spending my life making men look beautiful, aka directing sports stars my way. So when you work in the commercial field that we're working in, you have to find your style. And essentially, I'm going to give you some tips here about how to approach each job and each superstar, but also just talk you through my particular style. And I'd be really interested in hearing your questions afterwards. Who am I? Well, Samira gave me a really nice intro just now, which I really enjoyed. What I am is a director based in London, and I've been directing for a number of years, 20 years, over 20 years. And I've been mostly doing short form. I did work in longer formats as well, which I enjoy, but it's a very, very different skill. And I'm doing commercials now, although I started in broadcast, and I still work in broadcast, and it's a very exciting job. I have pitched this discussion, I like to call it a chat, to people perhaps starting out more than I am. Obviously, I'm an established director, and I work as a creative director as well. But I hope that these tips about how I sort of grew in the industry will be helpful to you. How I made it. Well, I put this in inverted commas because it is a bit knowing. I think how you make it is that you actually are brave, and I think you constantly have to push. And the piece of work that really put my name, I guess, sort of landed me more work, and that's how you know it's when people start coming to you, is this next video that I'm going to show you. And it's when I worked at Discovery in broadcast. So broadcast, which is what Promax is all about, is a brilliant, brilliant place to express your directing style. The 4 golden nuggets I'd like you to really think about right now are the following. And it took me absolutely years to learn this. It's so simple, but actually it takes a long time to practice what you know to be true. Be yourself. This is extremely important. In an industry that is basically about communication, the most important thing is for you to be true to yourself and to find a really authentic way of communicating to your team, to your creative directors when you're starting out, to your clients when you go forward, and also to the talent that you're directing. Being yourself is probably the best lesson I learned in the last 20 years in this industry. I think what often happens is that when you're starting out and you're younger, you look up to a lot of people and you kind of want to be a bit like them, or you look at what is success and you see it to be a very specific type of person perhaps, or you don't recognize yourself in those who have made it. Forget all of that. Forget questioning yourself too much. Be yourself, because who you are is the best way of communicating to people. Stars, talent, the crew, the team all react really well to authenticity. People want to know who you are as a director or as a creative, and you have to show them through your work and through your style of work. Be resourceful. Well, we all know about that, don't we, at the moment? Budgets have been cut recently. I think even, going back, budgets can be very generous sometimes, depending on the size of the campaign, but very often they're more modest than you would like as a director and as a producer. And you have to be resourceful. Now, you have to be resourceful in your approach to a script as a director. You also have to be resourceful in your time management. And you have to be resourceful in the sense that as a director, you are also the person who comes up with solutions. And that will bring me to how closely you have to work with your producer. Being resourceful with the budget that you have and with the time that you have is very key to what you can bring to the table. Be bold. I was talking about being yourself. Being bold is about trusting yourself. It's also about, when you're given a script, express it in the biggest way you can imagine. You have to be resourceful, but you do have to be bold. You have to have a vision, and you can't really, your ambition should be bigger than trying to do what others have done before you. So when I say be bold, I mean that should kind of translate in your creative. Try and think a bit out of the box. There's an obvious solution, but try and think of it a little bit differently. When I get a script, I always think to myself, what am I bringing to the table? What is unique to me, to my vision? And that, I suggest, is what you can do. Be bold. Don't just follow your obvious solution to a problem. Think out of the box. Fight. That's going back to budgets. Fighting means being confident, and it means believing in your idea and what you're trying to communicate. Fighting doesn't mean that you have to be aggressive. It just means that you have to keep on trucking. When you direct very high-end, big budget stuff, it's a little bit easier, actually, in some respects, because you have the budget and you have the team, the numbers behind you to support you. When you have to be more resourceful financially and time-wise and creatively, you will find that you will have to be a little bit more persuasive and carry people with you. And that's what I mean by fighting. Believe in what you're doing and just don't lose focus. Going forward, I was talking to you about the piece of work that made people come to me as a director. And I'll play it now. It was for Discovery, and it was with the athlete, James Cracknell. And he had just had an accident, actually, a serious accident that had, he'd encountered a truck when he was cycling when he was making this program. It meant that we had a very delicate, in some respects, athlete that we had to work with. And what we were asking him to do was huge. We were asking him to essentially, you'll see from the film, be strapped up, practically naked, and really trust us and really embrace the creative. And that's what I was talking about in my nuggets to you. You know, be resourceful and be authentic. And he could tell that we really believed in this project, and he went along with it. And he was very brave. And I think that comes across well. It's a very creative piece of work. So as a team, we worked very tightly on it, and it swept the board at Promax. It did really, really well that year. And it did mean that I got repped as a director. So that's what you do. You make a piece of work where you feel that you're really expressing yourself and people will notice. Have a look. Now, I think I found my style in that piece of work. So I've called this next part of my talk, chat, as I keep referring to it, finding your style. Now, you will have a style. Presumably, if you're interested in directing or being a creative, it's because you believe in your style. You may have various styles, but every piece of work that you do has to have a vibe, a style. It has to be something that to an extent stands out, either because it's so polished or it's so original, or it makes you laugh and it provokes a really strong emotion from people, strong reaction. But it has to have a style. Now, I believe that I've found my style, but I know that my style is constantly changing, and you'll see that as I go through. And I'm sure yours is, and yours will too. And finding your style means essentially you're not stuck with it forever, but it means you're embracing the way you have decided to communicate to people now. That piece of work is very intense. And I think some people would say perhaps that's what I bring to every piece of work. But I think as well, I like it visually, it's beautiful. And I think beauty accounts for a lot. And I'll go back to that, obviously. But I just really want you to take this away, find your style, be confident about it. Here I have quotes from heroes. We have Nina Simone. I'll tell you what freedom is to me, no fear. The reason why I put that quote in is because I think it can be, if you're starting out as a young director, quite overwhelming, really, because you are essentially the person with all the answers, but you're not, and I'll go back to that. Don't be afraid. So believe in your style, believe in your voice, believe in your creative, be it someone else's script, but your vision. And don't be afraid. Fear is a complete waste of time. So fear is natural to a certain extent, but so is nerves, and so is, kind of, insecurity to a certain extent, because without that insecurity, every time you get a project, you won't have the resourcefulness to try and fix it. So you need to be out of your comfort zone. So fear to an extent is normal. However, do not let that stand in your way. And I love Nina Simone. She's very much herself. With regards to being yourself, she is the epitome of that. Albert Camus, I am French, so I grew up reading a lot of French. Fiction is the lie through which we tell the truth. Find the truth you're trying to express. What we do is all make believe, and that's the absolute beauty of it. I love the fact that we're constantly telling a story. As a director, you tell the story visually and through sound, of course. As creatives, you are telling stories. You're finding your punchy way of communicating a truth. And I just love that quote from Albert Camus, because he's essentially saying, create your own world. And that world, that creative world, that style I was talking about, that courage, that piece of communication will tell a truth. Right, I'm in my hero's mood, and Céline Sciamma is a director who is very old at the moment, feature films, of course, and she says about creativity, it's a process for me, and it's also a really personal journey and a deconstruction. I love that, because it goes back to what I was saying about having to be resourceful. So you have to deconstruct a script, you have to deconstruct your approach to that script, and to a certain extent it's quite forensic, but it is a process. And I keep looking down at my screen. I know that must be a bit distracting for you, but that's the way I do it. It's all very informal. She talks about it as a personal journey. And that's what I'm saying about bring a lot of yourself to it. It doesn't have to be intimate, but it has to come from you. Michaela Cole, I don't think we should be presentable or present ourselves for the sake of others. That's really about being the kind of creative you want to be, not worrying about what everyone else is doing, not trying to mirror other people, not trying to be like them. As I was saying, when you're young, you think, oh, maybe I should be a bit more like this, maybe I should be a bit more like that. Just be yourself, and that's your strength. Moving forward, talking about being yourself, I made this film called Mum, and it did very well through social media, and it was shown in Parliament, and I worked very closely with a producer called Claire Cottrell, and it was a labour of love, as they say, and it was to support the call for the decriminalisation of prostitution, and to support the work of the English Collective Prostitutes, who are forever fighting fearlessly to give women safety in their jobs. This is a very different style to the James Cracknell piece that you saw. However, it is intense and it is from the heart, and that is my style. Have a look at it, and I hope you enjoy.
I'm going to put Theo here. I think you're going to really like this, Mummy. I love you, Mummy.
Lay your little hand in mine. Once the rain has stopped.
I'd do anything for my kids.
Just that, please, love.
Put food on the table, pay the bills, you name it.
Now that all the snow has fallen, you will see flowers. There will be flowers, and you'll see a rainbow. Ooh, see how the fox, she said.
How much, darling?
She's told her God she's going out in the cold and dark, but there, back there, by their side by morning. Lay your little hand in mine. Now that all the snow has fallen.
So what's the point? I'm still not talking about how to direct sports people, am I? Just to go back to what we've just been discussing, find your voice. Now, whether that's in a commercial way or in a personal way, like this project, don't be afraid of who you are and of expressing your vision. And that applies to working with sports people. I think in our industry, probably in every industry, but I've been working in this one so long, it's difficult to tell. But in every industry, it's life, isn't it? You have your commercial reality of the world you work in, the expectations on you to deliver, to answer a brief, to speak to your audience, and to work with the tools that you're given that aren't always the tools of your choice, going back to being resourceful. You're basically working for others with other people's script. And then you have your limitless imagination and I've got Alice in Wonderland there because I see myself as Alice in Wonderland. I'm sure a lot of you do as well. And that we're all kind of, every experience is new and your approach to it is always fresh. And we live in a crazy world and you have all these things flying around and you have to try and make sense of it. So that's very true of a creative, but also as a director. So what do? You could go mad. You could, you know, your imagination is limitless, but there are expectations of you as well. So that is a fine balance, a challenging balance that we all have to find as directors and as creators in the industry. But I actually love it. I think that's why we all love the job. Seriously, when will she get to the point? That's the background for me in about 10 minutes of being a director. Now, directing sports people and superstar Idris Elba. You just have to be exactly as you would be directing the kid next door. Do not treat them any differently than you would anyone else. Rule number one. Number two, still believe in yourself, believe in your vision. And number three, communicate well. As I said, James Cracknell trusted us. He trusted our vision. He trusted that we would make a beautiful piece of work. And it's all about communicating that really well to them and winning them over in the nicest possible sense. Not manipulating, but communicating to them that you really care about this project and you're going to make them look good. Here is a piece that we made at Discovery with Idris Elba. We didn't have very long with him, but we had a reasonable amount of time to be ambitious enough to try and do this. Technically, it was a very challenging shoot, but it was doable because we had the best crew, the best production. It was absolutely fantastic. And it was also very doable and very kind of enjoyable, actually, and quite powerful, I think, because Idris was on board, because we had communicated really well to him what we wanted to do, and he gave us the time. And actually, it was a real pleasure working with him because he was one of the few superstars whom I've worked with who, once he's given you a take, looks directly at you and go, any notes, Meriem. So he's so professional, he's so on it, and he appreciates what time limitations mean. So it's very much a team effort with him. Have a look. There's one of my favorite shots that I've done in there, and it's an overhead crane shot. We had a 50-foot techno crane. It was quite difficult convincing people that we needed that, but we got it. And I think you can see why. What we wanted to do was have a very cinematic and dramatic approach and a very personal approach to his story. He was presenting a show about racing, and we shot this in Silverstone, and enjoy. Especially when you've got a techno crane, use it and show it off. 50-foot techno crane, that's a luxury. But that piece to me is very close to my heart because it was, I wouldn't say privilege, but it was a real highlight working with Idris Elba because he's just such a good actor. And I learned a lot directing him. I think some actors, when you work with them, actually teach you a lot. And that was one of those situations where I learned from watching him. And I learned how to communicate with a top-notch actor. Now, I've got three heads on at the moment. We have the visionary, we have the boss, and we have the mentor. And in many ways, you've got to be all of those people when you direct talent, or direct a crew, or direct the team. You're directing more than the talent in front of the screen. You are directing everyone behind the camera. The visionary, you have to have the vision. You're the one with the vision. No one can see what's going on in your head other than yourself. And you have to communicate that really well to your team. You have to communicate that to the crew. But before that, you have to communicate that very often to the client, very often to your producer. And you have to communicate that to the audience. They have to make sense of what you're doing. It all has to come together. And actually, in the films that you've seen, Cracknell and Idris Elba, You also are very much directing the post. They're quite heavy on post, and you have to get everyone on board with your vision. Now, your vision isn't dictated by you solely. It's something that you come to with others, with the writer of the script, with the art director, but you have to know what your destination is. You don't necessarily have to know how to get there, but that's what other people, heads of department, are there to help you with. But you have to know where you're going, and that is your vision. The boss, yeah, that's a bit tongue-in-cheek. The boss, I've got a picture of Victory here because you're gunning for victory. You are the boss. You are a conductor. I heard a surgeon on the radio discussing how she sees herself as a conductor when she's performing surgery, and I absolutely love that. And I think to a certain extent, as a director on set, in the edit suite, in the audio suite, in a pitch, you are the conductor. I call it the boss. You have to bring people with you. So you can't be afraid, to Nina Simone's point. You can't be afraid. You can be nervous. You can feel a little bit out of your comfort zone, but don't be afraid. The mentor. So going back to Idris and James Cracknell and the little girl you saw in the film Mum, you are the mentor. You have to look after the people who are in front of the camera. You have to make sure that they feel comfortable, make sure that they trust you, make sure that they know where they're going with you. So I've called that the mentor, because actually I see it as a very generous, and I sound a bit like a hippie, but it's quite holistic. You have to bring people in. You are looking after them. James Cracknell, again, was very vulnerable. The little girl, you know, she's not a trained actress. She's vulnerable to an extent. People who aren't used to being in front of the camera are vulnerable. So I think of myself as a mentor. I'm here to look after them as well. Now, at last I get there. Making men look beautiful. Well, here's Vivian Mayer, and she is here because I love the idea of objectification. Now, anyone who knows anything about film theory knows about the male gaze. And here I'm suggesting you create your own gaze. I'm a director, I have my own gaze. Hence the vision that I was talking about, hence the creativity, hence the authenticity. Be you. Now, this is a little bit tongue-in-cheek when I talk about objectification, but actually, to be honest, I have become a sports fan, but I wasn't when I started this journey directing sports people. What I saw in front of me were people who were top of their game, were people who just exuded strength, presence, focus, and physical strength as well. To a certain extent, beauty, although that's a very wonderfully broad word. But I, as a director, decided to objectify them. Now here we have Bear Grylls' Escape from Hell. Bear Grylls is was a very big presence on Discovery when I was working for them. And objectification in mind, I was tired of seeing him running around everywhere and all the rest of it. What about a different way of looking at him? What about objectifying him?
Bear Grylls, Escape from...
I'm going to actually play the Bear Grylls again, because I believe it was interrupted. And as I was saying, this is very much a piece about objectifying Bear Grylls. So apologies for the technical hiccup, and enjoy.
If you find yourself going through hell, keep going. Relive the stories of those who have cheated death. Bear Grylls, Escape from Hell, coming soon, only on Discovery.
I'm smiling because I was accused of being more macho than any macho when I made that with the guys at Discovery. But again, it's about passion, it's about drama. And that was what I was going for. Find your thing. And in a way, if you are not a natural kind of adventure television person or a natural sports person, you have a slightly detached view of it, which I think can work to your favor, hence why we approach Bear this way. So my point being, Bear Grylls, Idris Elba, James Cracknell, what have they all got in common? Where they're super famous, they're very high achieving people, they're very focused, and they're very successful. You can be a sporting superstar. You can be a role model. You can be a billionaire. You'll probably still be camera shy. So my point being that you're working with these guys, apart from Idris Elba, they were all pretty camera shy. Now, for example, Bear Grylls is not camera shy, but he's not used to standing there acting, getting into the zone. So he may not be shy, but I still have to convince him to do something very different and to kind of show a vulnerability, really. Now, I've worked with a lot of sports stars like Paul Pogba, you'll see more of, and they are not shy people, super confident, but they're not used to acting or to being a certain way in front of the camera. And that's for you, the director, to get out of them. So Kevin De Bruyne, he is, as you know, a footballing superstar. And I'm showing you this film, not so much for the directing style at all, but just to tell you how, if you make someone feel comfortable, if you win their trust, if they're a little bit shy about revealing a lot about themselves, it's up to you to try and get it out of them. I'll show you the film and I'll tell you how we did that.
My name is Kevin De Bruyne, number 17, midfielder for Manchester City. A lot of people can have talent, but I see a lot of talent also go to waste. I left my home when I was 14 years old. Like, okay, I need to do this, I need to go to play football, and it paid off in the end. But obviously I saw a lot of people who didn't make anything in football, so yeah. You don't really know what you're sacrificing at the time, because obviously I went home 1 day a week after Saturday, the game. So I drove 200 kilometers to see my parents, and on Sunday afternoon I drove back. It was something that I had to do at the time, and will for me feel right to get the best possibility to get a football career. Can't stand to lose. Even at home, a board game with the missus, the son, whatever, can't lose against them. You know, it's just the way I am. It just drives me to keep going and yeah, to become probably the best at what I can be in football. And I don't know what that is, but yeah, I'm pretty good at the moment. My winning mentality, I can drive people on. I'm pretty vocal, I think, sometimes. Can get very annoyed also on the field. But yeah, it's the way I am. People accepted it. It's the way I want to drive people forward, to drive the team forward, just to do everything in the end to be on the winning side. The differences between the players at this level are so minimal that in the end it's more about mental than physically, because it's every 3 days you need to come back. There's no rest for us, and even like after a busy year like last year, no time to get your mental rest or your physical rest. You need to be very strict in what you're doing as a player, the way you live your life, and then yeah, in about another 8 years till 10 years I'm done and I can do whatever I want. Whatever your career, Hayes can help you take it to the next level.
I'm going to show you now a video, a film that we did for Kingsman to promote the film. And I'm just going to play it on the back of the Man City film with Kevin, and I'll discuss them both at the end.
We're from the Kingsman Tailor Shop in London. Maybe you've heard of us?
Manners maketh man.
Which player will make the best Kingsman and why?
I think me. That's such a...
No chance.
Yeah?
Yeah, probably you.
And why?
He looks like him.
I mean, he goes from a ghetto boy to a classic man, so
yeah, just say it.
Who has the sickest skills in the team?
Definitely not you. You with the hands probably, but not with the feet.
yeah, Marcus Rashford. He's frightening, all in, man. Savage.
Would you rather be a Kingsman or a statesman?
Kingsman.
Kingsman. Spectacular, eh?
What's the coolest thing about the Kingsman?
The gadgets.
The glasses.
Just the watch.
Would you rather wear Oxford shoes or cowboy boots?
Cowboy boots.
Cowboy boots. Yeah, I think they suit you.
What is the best accessory? A bazooka briefcase or a laser lasso?
Bazooka. I just like the name.
I'm done with you, man. I'm done with you.
So those two films are very much an example of working with very limited time with very big sports stars. So I work with the Mob in Manchester, and the way we approach working with these football stars is a military operation. To go to the Kevin De Bruyne one, we had, I think, literally 10 minutes with him on set. What happens is when you're filming with premier football stars like that, they literally come in on set with an assistant, as I'm sure some of you will know, who have stopwatches. And as soon as they hit the set, stopwatch comes on. You have 10 minutes. Now, what I'm so proud about with the Kevin De Bruyne Man City piece is branded content. There's no bells and whistles, but what we did manage to get was a real intimate opening up here. He actually tells us an awful lot about himself. And I think that's a tribute to the making him feel secure, the atmosphere in the room, the fact that we practiced it and it went really, really smoothly. So in order to get that kind of revelatory kind of tone from someone like that, who's usually very professional, very guarded, was, I think, a real coup. And we did that with all the Man City players. With this Kingsman piece, the reason why I'm sharing that one with you is that, again, we had the stopwatch situation, and all these guys, you saw who they were, huge, came on set, had to get them changed into their outfits, and then we had to get them into a Kingsman mood. And that's not obvious. They've just come from training. So they need to really, they're completely overwhelmed by the set, by, the adrenaline on set. And you have to make sure that you communicate really warmly, I would say, towards them, make them feel at ease and try and make them have fun. Now, the way I do that is, again, to go back to the beginning of the chat, to be myself and to be pretty informal, but also to reassure them and show them that this is, forensically organized. We had stand-ins for that, of course. We were on set very, very early to try. It was actually quite complicated trying to match it with the Kingsman look. There were a lot of stakeholders, 20th Century Fox, Man U, obviously. So there was a lot of pressure on us, which is great, because that does, get you all very focused, and we loved it. But how to get the best performance, the most authentic performance from these guys, is to make them feel at ease, to make them enjoy themselves, and to pair them intelligently together. So you have Lukaku with Paul Pogba, and they genuinely got on. So that was our little approach there, a little, shorthand to get them relaxed. The same with Mata, and so on and so forth. Pair them up with the person they get on best with. Try and put the stopwatch pressure aside. Be super, super focused. and be warm and smile, because you'll find that whoever's in front of the camera tends to mirror the vibe of the people behind the camera. And the little trick I have as well is that I tend to introduce myself in French to French football players, and suddenly they're much more at ease with me. So if you have something in common with them, show them. But warmth, authenticity, and fun really works in that kind of environment, as well as precision, time precision. Here we have All Red, All Equal, which is an anti-racism campaign. I think we did about a year or 2 years ago. It won a few awards. Exactly the same time pressure, a stream of amazing athletes coming through the door, very little time to get them on board, to get them looking good. They look good very easily, but I mean, to get them camera ready, and to get them at ease. So again, it was about my personal communication skills resonating with them. Have a look.
I don't really have any words to say.
That's disgusting.
I can't believe somebody said that.
Football is going through a time
Where we're still seeing discrimination.
Throughout our game.
It's just crazy that we're speaking about these things still today.
I'm shocked.
I've played football the majority of my life, and I ain't heard anything as ridiculous as that.
There's no place for that anywhere.
Nobody asked that question in reality, right?
It's ignorant.
I've heard that a million times before.
That's just wrong.
I don't even know where to start with that.
There's no way.
Vous plaisantez?
I can't find the right word in English.
Il faut arrêter ça.
Não acredito.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Really?
Really? Really?
There should never be racism in the world.
It's just nonsense.
It's just now reminded.
Embrace difference.
At the end of the day, we're just all the same.
All red, all equal.
It's Manchester United's promise.
To champion equality,
Diversity and inclusion.
To celebrate individualism.
Accepting people for who they are.
Embracing the differences.
That make the world
A more exciting place.
There's no greater goal.
That a more equal world.
All red.
All equal.
That is a campaign very close to my heart for the message it has, and I hope you enjoyed it. So we have the big bucks, special effects, 50-foot crane, motion control in when it comes to the Bear Grylls shoot. We have all bells and whistles. We also have a more intimate approach where you have to be resourceful. In fact, you always have to be resourceful, but you have to be financially resourceful and creatively resourceful. And then you have the time pressure, which is a huge part of working with footballers and sports stars of this ilk, because they are a big machine, big PR machine, and their time is precious. You know, every minute counts. So with that All Red, All Equal, they were literally in front of the camera, I think, 5 minutes each. And we got them on board quickly and with warmth, and it felt like teamwork. So that was a really wonderful thing. If I can leave you with something, be generous to the point about being warm, reflecting back to them what you want them to show you, authenticity. It's teamwork. So by being generous, I also mean work really closely, be focused and be brave. I think I've talked to you about being generous. The focus and the courage we've spoken about before. And a couple of quotes. I love my quotes and I love my heroes. I wish I had a formula, but you just have to plunge right into it. And that's Margaret Atwood. So these are tips, but essentially be brave, don't be afraid, just do it and do it with warmth. And lastly, Tina Fey, say yes and you'll figure it out afterwards. Just keep on trucking. Thank you. There you go, Samira. Apologies for the technical hiccups.
No worries. Thank you so much for the presentation. Again, just a reminder to everyone, send in your questions. I'm going to be starting a little chat with Meriem now, and then we'll get to your questions. I think the biggest thing on my mind is, traditionally speaking, I don't, and it's a bias that I think a lot of us have, don't, expect a woman in this industry to be directing these hard, like intense sports commercials. So, I mean, what is your experience of being a woman in this field? Have you encountered any sort of awkward moments or challenges in that regard?
When haven't I? I mean, I could do a whole talk about that, as I'm sure we all could. Yes, but I've had a few fun. I can look back and laugh now. I've walked in on in big studio sets, and people have said, "Oh, do you know where the kettle is?" Or people have said, "Oh, you make up, you're over there." Just like electricians, riggers, or whatever, who don't really know who I am. And it's not, my advice would be, don't take it personally. That is a big tsunami of political stuff, and that's a whole other chat. But don't let it stop you. I think it can work in your favor. Always think positively about things, in the sense that you're not out machoing them. There's no bravado. They actually, a lot of these guys and the female sports stars I've worked with, there's a sort of shorthand trust. I think they tend to warm to me better, perhaps, than maybe if I was a guy. But yes, I've had a few hilarious situations. Put the kettle on, hello makeup, and when's the director coming here? And even once I had a director of photography who will remain nameless, whom I hadn't met before the shoot, sadly, who didn't talk to me for like 4 hours. I don't know. He wasn't used to female directors. So you do come up with maddening situations that you just have to handle. But I'm a glass half full, so I make it work for me.
And I think that probably comes back down to be yourself, own your strength, and go with that.
Totally. Exactly that, Samira. I'm not going to waste any time stressing about these people, or, I've got stuff to do, and I know I can do it really well, and I've got the team behind me.
So some of the questions coming in from Tim at the moment: out of all the sports stars in the world, and not just the men, who would you most like to still shoot with?
Who I would like to shoot with? Out of all the sports stars,
men or women?
That is so easy. Serena, that's it. I just love her.
Putting it out there.
Yeah, if I need a motivational quote, Serena. Yes, Serena. And again, I think I would objectify her in a really feminist, glorious way, but amazing looks. Just work with what you've got. I mean, what a hero. She's just an amazing sports person and an amazing icon. And I wouldn't shy away from, objectifying her from one sister to another.
I mean, your confidence and acceptance of yourself comes across really, really strongly. But I mean, were you always like this? How do you most creators, we kind of sit there and we're insecure and we're second guessing, and, we're looking back at our work, and very rarely can we go, you know what, that was beautiful and that was really well done and well executed. But you have this ability to kind of look at something and own it and be confident in that and your skills. So how do you get there?
That's very good insight, Samira. Yeah, I think too many of us are really hard on ourselves. I hate to say it, perhaps women, we're harder on ourselves. I think that's fact than men. I think it's experience. Number one, it's experience. Number two, life's too short. So it's kind of philosophical as well. I'm not here to give myself a hard time. Life gives you, life is hard enough. You've got to love yourself. You've got to be proud of what you do, really simply. Number three, I think it also comes from a kind of belief that it's almost like you have to put all the voices aside of self-criticism. It's good to have them as a creative or as a director, but just put them on mute and actually be objective about your work. And I think if you know you're working with the best people, I keep saying it, you're as good as your team, then you will have really great work. Now, how hard you are about your own contribution is actually your choice. Be objective, look at your work, learn from it, grow, and celebrate it when you've done really well and when you've worked with brilliant people that you've gotten so much from. I used to be really shy as a youngster, and actually, it was just, like I keep saying, it's experience. Working in the industry, you sit there as a shy woman and you think, actually, I've got a lot more to say, and what I have to contribute is really valid. So I'm just going to have to say it. So you just learn to make some noise. Make some noise.
Brilliant. And then I'm just conscious of time now. So wrapping up with the last question, what's next for you? What is your next project?
Thanks for the question, Samira. I've just finished a grade for a commercial we did for Sheffield Hallam University, so that'll be on air soon. And I love that. That was it's quite Instagrammy, cool young things, and it's sort of a poetic script, and it's really exciting as a director to get good creative and make the most of it. So yeah, it was just brilliant in this horrible climate that we're all struggling with at the moment, to actually go out there and shoot with a fantastic team was just gorgeous. I love it. I'm in my element when I'm shooting.
Amazing. Meriem, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your work with us. I know a couple, there's been a couple comments of finding it really interesting. Tim kind of taking home whoever is in front of the camera gets the vibe of whoever is behind it. I think you really appreciated that. So for those of you who want to follow Meriem's work, go to meriemadib.london. And yeah, again, thank you. Have a great day. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you.
Thanks so much, guys. I hope you can get nuggets out of it. Enjoy.
Absolutely,
Bye.
Absolutely.